Call it like I see it. Good evening, Sharon. How you doing?
Good evening, Tasha. How are you?
Fantastic. Thanks for asking.
You know, if people
Like
could
this
only
all
hear the
day, right?
huh?
Been like this all day.
You really have. Listen, we started out at what time this morning? 7 o'clock, and you all filled. You started at 5. We started together working out at 7. And listen, I really wasn't here for all of that. You know, you want to go into the history of the eggs. I was like, stop it.
Good morning. I am full of random facts, right?
You're a regular Cliff Clavin. All right. So tonight we're talking about what to do when they can't hear you, right?
Yeah.
We have all been.
Hey, Gail.
Hi, Gail. Gail's the best. We've all been in an environment where we're trying to communicate, be it professionally, personally, whatever, and we're like, couple words, like you can't get your point across, or you're not understanding, or you see your friend like really going down a dark path, and they're getting in their own way. And certainly as accountability partners, we can run into that.
Yeah. And we have to come up with some tactics other than speaking slowly, because just because you speak slowly doesn't mean I'm going to understand what you say.
Not at all. Not at all. It means
that's mad if you say the same words over again, just in a different tone or slower, right?
Or louder.
Right? Yeah.
Speaking to them louder doesn't make it more understandable, right? And there are a number of barriers that you have to overcome, because it could be a very sensitive, volatile situation, and you have to. So come on, let's get into it. Let's get in some tips to the people, because we've all been there. And as we wrote, you know, what's your favorite quote? What did this all remind you of?
We all saw Rush Hour, right? Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? I loved it though when like Jackie Chan gave it back to him.
I don't know who you are tonight. Okay, so
random facts. I know
you're fun Tasha tonight. I love it. I love fun Tasha. I love it. All right. So the first thing, right? First thing is put yourself in their shoes,
which can be hard to do sometimes, I will say.
Yeah.
But oftentimes we have been there before, regardless of what the specifics of the situation are. We've been in a situation where we're nervous, right?
Yeah.
Or we're, feeling disappointed about something. And so when you're trying to get through to somebody and you know that that's what they're feeling, then you can try and put yourself in their shoes and try and understand, even if you've never been in that specific situation before.
Yeah, I mean, empathy is huge. I mean, how can why would anyone listen to you if they don't believe you understand them? Just bottom line, like the first thing you want to say is, well, you've either never been where I've been, right? Because that's an immediate defense, or you don't know how it feels to be. So you have to implore some level of empathy for any sort of communication to begin.
And I think it breaks down the judgment, right?
Yeah.
Like if you like, yeah, I've been there, right? Like there's no judgment here because I've been where you are.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. That is critical to the first step, for sure. And listen, for those of you who are watching, please drop your comments. Let us know what you think. Join the conversation. These are our ideas. You might have some better ones.
Yeah. Gail says, share your experience. I will say that on my personal journey to be more loving and more authentic, I've shared a lot over these past few years that in prior years, I would not have.
I give it to you. You have. And I have seen, and I've had people come back to me and they think you're so lovely and wonderful. Not that you're not, but it's like after, you know what I mean? Like they've had this maybe a lunch with you, and you've kind of, been the Tasha that I know and shared, and they fall in love. They're like, oh my God, Tasha's so amazing. She's such a super woman. And I'm like, she really is. But it's when they hear from you as opposed to just seeing you from afar and just, okay, you're there. Yeah. And it does. And so that's a very good point, Gail.
Yep.
All right. The next step, 2, seek to understand and then to be understood. Major. I learned this years ago. Major. Why do you like it?
I like it because it makes me practice listening skills, right? Oftentimes I'm already playing a conversation in my head or preparing my response as this person is talking. And so I can't be listening if I'm not seeking to understand, right? Because I'm seeking to defend or I'm seeking to solve the problem or whatever, right? And so for me, it helps me practice really good listening skills. I think I may have shared this before, but during my coaching training, we learned about wait. Why am I talking? Right? That's how you practice listening. You wait until that person is done saying what they have to say. And sometimes there is a pause. And it, for me, it has been uncomfortable because I'm just also, you just talk, right? If they say something, I got to say something back, right? But sometimes
let me say this, you are a problem solver.
I am.
And your mind immediately goes to fix it, solution, do it now. Duh. You're not doing it? What are we talking about? Yeah, so I get it.
Make a plan.
Yeah, what you complaining for? What are we doing? If you're not gonna do something about it, yeah.
And so for me, I have to be very intentional, right? To listen.
Yeah.
Sometimes people just want to be heard. They're not looking for me to solve anything. And listen, I have to pat myself on the back sometimes because for me, it's a big thing to just listen.
I thought you were going to go someplace else, but you're like, I'm patting myself on the back just to listen. I'm just going to
just listen. It's big for me.
I think for me, what I've learned.
Nan is in the house. She said, "Don't we all do that?" Yeah, man. We're all on this journey.
Hey, Nan. I would say that what I learned from this and imploring that is that everyone wants to be heard, right? So one of the greatest things, if you watch Oprah's last episode of her talk show, she said the one underlying lesson under all of her, however many thousands of shows, is that people really want to be heard. So if you allow them to speak and to be heard, they can then say, okay, and be in a position where they can hear what you have to say.
Yeah.
But they have to be heard first. So lots of times in my work, I'm often like, well, let me just hear it. Let's talk about, before I come in. And to your point, yes, when we don't do this and we don't practice the wait method that you talk about, we're just so quick. We haven't even heard what they're saying because we're so ready to talk. We've prepared our answers and the person knows we're not listening. They're not listening. So
I think if we don't create a space where both parties have an opportunity to be heard, that also creates that I need to make sure I get mine in because I'm never going to have an opportunity to say it. Right.
Well, I mean, and you did it right with your hands. It becomes a battle.
It becomes a battle.
It goes from listening to battle. I have to win. I'm not being heard. I'm fighting to be heard. I'm battling to win this argument. I want the person to feel what I'm feeling. Like, I mean, really, your hands spoke to it.
Yeah,
definitely. All right, next thing. Adapt your method and your message.
First thing that comes to mind for me here is love language, right?
Okay.
When we talk about listening and adapting your message and your method, right? Like if you're trying to get through to somebody who you can't get through to, you have to understand how they can receive the message and how they like to be talked to, right? Some people can't handle sarcasm. Some people can't handle the direct truth, right? Tactless Tasha sometime, right?
Yeah. I would say both of us have that challenge. Like we speak very directly. Like I have to acknowledge that when I get into work mode or serious mode or whatever. I mean, I'm very, for the most part, if you get to know me, I'm a clown. I like to laugh. I like to make people laugh. I just like to have fun. But the second I turn into, I am straight no shooter. Yeah. There's, my voice goes lower. You know what I mean? I'm speaking very articulately. I'm enunciating every word. Yeah. And that can put some people off. I can understand, and I have to be mindful of that.
I do too, especially at work. So with the people that I work closest with, I like to say, listen, let's have a conversation about how we work and how we communicate so no one gets their feelings hurt, right? Because there's no feelings, like there's no crying in baseball, there's no feelings at work, but they are there, right?
But they are there.
But there are certain people that I have to adapt my method and I have to sweeten it up a little bit. And these are the HR things that we take training for. We learn how to behave at work.
Apparently they're working.
Yeah.
I mean, and for me, I think, to me, again, I work in communications as a profession. I'm always being mindful of the communication barriers, right? Whether the person feels insecure is a communication barrier. You have to know that. Whether they feel jilted by this, whether they are feeling whatever, whether they feel like they've been wrong so many times that they want to be right about something. And so you have to really, or whether or not what they feel about you can be a communication barrier. What they feel about your history is a communication barrier. Mm-hmm. And so, Evangeline, hey, Gangsta E, you are your mother's child. We all have had to learn how to speak carefully. Well, there might be a couple mothers who can speak to that. So,
right. Listen, I think, communication is so important. It's one of the things when we talk about like financial education is something that we feel like should be taught to our kids from a young age. I also feel like communication is one of the things that should be taught to our kids at a young age. Because I feel like we weren't really taught how to communicate well, and it affects us in every area of our life, right? This is why we have to take these type of trainings at work, and this is why we have to go to therapy when you're married, and this is why friendships break up and that sort of thing, right? Like you were blessed to be a communications major and you are very good at it, I must say.
Thank you very much. Thank you. When I try, I will say this, and let's be honest, when I try, if I am not in that state of mind, I'm quick draw McGraw, what you got? I have to
Listen, even with that being quick draw McGraw, some of us, it takes a little more time to think and put our thoughts together, right? And so,
listen, that girl from Elizabeth, New Jersey still exists here, but I hear you and I take the compliment and I appreciate it. But to your point,
amen.
Yes. What happened?
Man said, amen. Hey, good evening, Anthony. He said, yeah, that's why people don't ask questions. We've been trained not to speak up.
Check out Anthony Salters in the comments. Hey, Ant, what's going on, Salt? It's good to see you. And so, so we're not taught that. And I think that's a very good point. We're told to sit down, shut up, speak when you're spoken to. And we are taught to, when that's what we model when we get older. All right.
Wait. I got one, the sit down and shut up. I feel like, and I try and do this with my kids, that I grew up in a household where I had a voice, but not always a choice, right? I want to say, of course, sure, we can talk about it.
Yeah.
You're going to do what I say do, but absolutely tell me how you feel and let's talk it through. And so I try and do that same thing with my kids. I give them a voice, but understand that I'm in charge and we're going to do it my way. But tell me how you feel about it. Let's talk. Go ahead.
All right. Validate emotions. Important, particularly if you're trying to be an accountability and hold someone accountable and you want to see them go further, right? You got to know the struggles that they are feeling, right? So I'll just take an example of, we're accountability partners, so I'm not necessarily talking about you, but I'll talk about you, right? And in general, I have to know and I have to be sensitive to what you're going through. And you have a lot of balls in the air, right? You have a lot of balls going on. I'm not exactly sure how you do it. And, but here we are.
Yeah.
Right. So I try to be mindful of, let me give her, I know at the beginning of the semester, you're going to be more stressed out than you will be at the end of the semester. Now, unfortunately, your second semester starts at the very beginning of my stressful part of the year, right? Which is the end of the year. So we both have, but we have to know that, right? And so whether or not we say it or not, we have to acknowledge that those emotions are there.
Yeah. I think this makes me think about, from accountability standpoint, that we create a safe space, right?
Yeah.
I know that I can be honest and say, "Bro, I'm tired. Like I can't do anymore," right? And
Yeah.
and then some places, we talked about this whole strong Black woman thing. Some places you feel like you can't say that, you can't do that, but
Right.
with an accountability relationship, we do create that safe space, and that there's going to be somebody there to validate your emotions, and so you can just let it all out.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's really all you need to get through, is to let it out.
Sometimes you need someone just to give you grace and just say, I'm gonna just let her have it.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and that's just, but when someone, and I want to think about someone who is getting in their own way, when someone particularly has a goal and they are sabotaging themselves, right? And it's everyone else's fault but theirs, right? And you want to be like, come on now. Don't sit here and tell me that you can't, and I'll just use weight because it's something that we can all relate to, that you lose weight and it's just this and that and this stress, but you drinking every night. But you got a drink in your hand every night, right? You can't have, but you're not getting around and walking around. I can't hear it.
Yeah.
Or I can't stand dating because these men don't know how to communicate.
Do you know how to communicate?
There you go. Could it be your energy? Could it be? Could it just, because they all have one thing in common.
Right. Yeah.
Could it be? All these people can't have the same issue.
Anthony said that's what friends are for, to keep you in line. People need to have friends, true blue friends, to keep you in line and let you be emotional. Absolutely.
Listen, I see Salt and his friends, and I know he's had these friends since he was a child, and they're still shouting each other out, and I know they still got each other's back. Him, Ricky, all the bros from around the way, and I know he knows that firsthand and has a testament of that. Yeah.
But listen, we also talking the accountability relationship. I'm gonna let you be in your feelings for a little while.
Yeah, but then, and then, yeah. But it's also knowing, like, we can talk about, like, just knowing the time when to have the conversation. Like, listen, you might say something to me, like, so I've been having a car issue all week that has sent me, it has triggered all kinds of stuff in me. And you had your things to say to me. I heard you, but it couldn't really sink into me, right? Because really a person can only move but so much at one time, right? You can't go, a person can't move from totally against something to totally for something in one, it's uncommon for one conversation. You have to know that it's going to take a couple conversations, because one, you got to recognize their emotions. Two, you got to recognize the barriers. You got to
preach to me. Talk to me tonight about that, okay?
What about my car?
No, about you have to have the conversation more than once because of this and because of that and because
you have to. You can only move a person one or two steps.
Yeah.
Along that. Now, like that person may be at level 5, so they might get to level 10 faster, right? Yeah. But you got to know where they are. You got to understand the things that are blocking them getting there, and don't get frustrated with them. That is the huge thing. Don't stop talking to them because they didn't get it the first time. Let them go away. Let it sink. Talk to other people. Have other people come in and talk to them from a different way. It's okay, but you can only do so much at a time, and they get there. They can get there. I mean, but that's how you don't turn your back on them, for sure.
Yeah, it's being committed to the relationship, right? Evangeline says, you two are truly blessed to have such great friendship. I'm glad that we're friends now, because Ron likes to say that we weren't at first.
We were not.
Amen to that, Van.
Amen, Gangsta E. All right. So first off, we want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. We'll go over the tips that we went over again. 1, put yourself in their shoes, show empathy. 2, seek to understand and then to be understood. That's so important. 3, adapt your method and your message to where they are. And 4, validate their emotions. And, if I had thought about putting here 5, understand that they can only move one step at a time.
Yeah.
And it's okay to have the conversation more than once. Just keep coming at it at a different way.
So good. So good.
Yes. And so
tonight.
Yes. So if you want to follow us, you learn more about us, go to our website, accountabilityqueens.com for sure. Join us on Thursdays. We're here, but follow us on Facebook at The Accountability Queens and on Instagram at accountability_queens. We're here. Come through. We got some good stuff. I know we keep saying that, but we do. We really do have some good stuff coming up.
All right. We'll see you next time.
Good night.